Let's talk about science. Right now, it's going through something of an identity crisis, a really fundamental one. The big question we're diving into today is whether science is on the verge of its most incredible breakthroughs ever, or if it's actually in danger of forgetting the very thing that makes it work.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a quote that kind of blows up how we usually think about science. The physicist David Deutsch says we've got it all wrong. Science isn't some giant library of facts that we've collected over the centuries. No, it's a process. It's a living, breathing method for finding our mistakes and then fixing them. It's not about finding some final, ultimate truth.
So the crisis we're exploring here, it isn't about, a busted particle accelerator or a lack of funding. We're talking about something deeper, epistemological problems. That's just a fancy way of saying we're having a crisis in our theory of knowledge itself. We're being forced to ask, how do we actually know what we think we know? And are our methods for finding things out still working?
And look, this isn't just happening in some philosophical debate club. There's a perfect storm brewing. You've got the rise of AIs that can think in ways we literally can't follow. You've got fundamental physics, which, well, it seems to be stalling out. Biology is blurring the very lines of what it means to be alive. And maybe most importantly, public trust in the whole enterprise is crumbling. All of these things are hitting at the exact same time.
So let's break this down. Where are these doubts actually taking shape? We're going to look at 3 major frontiers where this struggle is happening right now. First up, fundamental physics. For decades, the Standard Model has been this incredible rock we've built everything on. But it can't explain the biggest stuff, like gravity or dark matter. And progress is just slow to a crawl. And that leads to a huge question. Have we finally hit a fundamental wall on what we can know, or are we just asking the wrong questions entirely? And this is where the debate gets really fascinating. On one hand, you have physicists like Edward Witten who say, look, reality is just getting harder. The puzzles we're trying to solve now are way more subtle than before. But then you have others like Sabine Hossenfelder who argue the problem isn't with reality, it's with us. It's with our institutions that reward playing it safe with elegant but untestable theories instead of taking big, messy risks. And the answer to that question could change everything. Okay, now for frontier number 2. And this one feels like it's straight out of science fiction. Artificial intelligence. We build these things to be our tools, right? But now they're spitting out hypotheses and finding patterns that no human brain can fully grasp. So begs the question, are we even the scientists anymore? Or are we slowly becoming, the curators for a new kind of alien intelligence?
And you can really see the tension in how the top minds in the field are talking about this. Demis Hassabis from DeepMind, he's optimistic. He sees a partnership. He says AI just expands what we can do. But then Geoffrey Hinton, one of the godfathers of AI, is a little more blunt. He basically says that clinging to the idea that we're the discoverers might just be about human pride. And then you have Yoshua Bengio, who raises a huge red flag, a moral hazard. He reminds us that discovery isn't just about finding patterns, it's about understanding the consequences. And if we hand that over, what happens then?
All of this leads us to the third frontier. And this one isn't happening in some far-off lab. It's happening in our everyday lives. As science gets more and more powerful, the trust that it relies on is cracking. The question is shifting from what is true to something much trickier. Who do we trust to tell us what's true?
And there's no easy answer. Neil deGrasse Tyson chalks it up to bad communication. Sabine Hossenfelder points a finger at scientists themselves, saying they sometimes overstate their certainty and hurt their own credibility. Jennifer Doudna, who helped invent CRISPR, points to this massive gap between what we can do, like edit genes, and our ability to manage it wisely. And David Deutsch kind of ties it all together. He says science is starting to act like an authority, demanding belief instead of doing the hard work of providing good explanations.
Okay, so we've laid out the problems. Physics is stuck, AI is getting weird, and public trust is taking a nosedive. What's the way out of this? Well, it brings us to the core philosophical choice at the heart of this whole thing. Are we going to be a science of explanation or a science of authority?
And here is the most important takeaway. The biggest threat to science isn't a wrong theory or a failed experiment. That happens all the time. That's part of the process. The real danger is that the whole institution of science forgets its soul, that it becomes so focused on just making predictions and building consensus that it forgets the messy, creative, critical, beautiful process of actually trying to explain the world. So how do we protect that soul? It really comes down to a few core principles, a few rules of the road. First, science has to refuse to have a final word on anything. It's an open-ended conversation forever. Second, it has to not just tolerate criticism but welcome it. Disagreement is how we make progress.
And finally, number 3, it has to always prioritize good explanations over just telling people, hey, believe us.
And you know what? If science can actually hold on to those principles, then its future isn't limited at all. In fact, it's really just getting started. This brings us back full circle to David Deutsch. That feeling that physics is stuck or that we're being overwhelmed by AI, he would argue that's not a sign that we've hit some cosmic limit. It's a sign we've hit the limit of our current imagination.
And that's not a bad thing. Actually, it's the engine that drives the whole process forward. Problems are not a sign that we've failed. They are guaranteed. They're the raw material that science needs to work.
And this is the optimistic punchline. Because while problems are a constant, our ability to come up with new, better, deeper, and more beautiful explanations is fundamentally unlimited. There is no final word. There is no end to discovery.
So we end here. The future of science won't be decided by a machine or by one single discovery. It's going to be decided by a choice, a very human choice between the easy comfort of authority and the infinite, difficult, but incredibly rewarding work of explanation. The choice, now and always, is ours.